All right, here we go. Welcome in, everybody. Hard Hat Hockey is back. Episode number 28. Time is flying when you're having a good time. We're approaching Thanksgiving. I've got some nice coffee in this Christmas themed mug today. I'm rocking a Denver Broncos hoodie because they're currently taking it to the Atlanta Falcons. I hope I don't have to bite my tongue. I know we've got at least some good football experiences today with Grant, I don't think the Browns did super well from what I'm seeing on the scoreboard, but I do know the Steelers won, which leads me to our guest of the day, Jonathan Katz, our Chicago Blackhawks expert and analyst from the field. Welcome back, Johnny.
Yeah, so I mean, as much as I am, born and raised out here in Chicago, I actually literally was born and kind of raised in the city of Pittsburgh. Big dub today for the boys. Ravens week is huge, and for some reason, the Ravens are just allergic to playing football against the Steelers. They find ways to lose, and we took advantage of it. So, yeah, Johnny Boy's in a really good mood right now.
So, good representation across the country today. Grant, as always, how's Ohio doing, babe?
It's fine, beautiful day today. I'm well past that point in the fall where you plan your Sundays around your NFL team. That went out the window, I would say week 5, maybe even earlier. So, got up, made a little breakfast, was talking to girlfriends, let's do something a little fun today. Let's go to a bookstore. Let's just try to, find something constructive for us to do instead of, watching the Browns offense just implode on itself. So, shout out to the Book Loft in German Village, Columbus, one of the all-time favorites. Listeners that aren't aware, imagine like a maze, but with just thousands of books on the wall. It's shockingly overwhelming. And I got lost. You get lost into it, and I got kind of turned around into a different kind of corner of the store that I have never been in before, and I've been there dozens of times. And I bought a book about the making of the movie Bull Durham, and really excited to read that. I was looking for a hockey book to kind of supplement my summer, but the pickings were a little slim. I did see, this is actually, we'll tie this into the Jackets here. The original GM for the Jackets is a guy named Doug McLean. Trent, do you know who he is? Is that familiar?
No, I don't remember Doug.
He was on Sportsnet for a while, up in Canada, and he wrote a book called Draft Day: What It's Like to Be a GM on the NHL Draft. Doug McLean refused to draft Kopitar when he had the shot with the Jackets. So him writing a book where it's like, this is what it's like on the busiest day as a GM. It'd be like me. I'm trying to think of a scenario, but it'd be like me writing what it takes to be a D1 athlete. It's like, well, you didn't do that and you failed.
Yeah, so Kopitar would have looked good in a Columbus jersey. Safe to say.
The story was he didn't trust the pedigree. He's very active on Twitter. He used to be active on Twitter. People would be like, "Hey, aren't you the guy that passed on Kopitar?" And he'd respond to people. So there's a non-0% chance that he somehow finds this recording and shows up in my house and yells.
Oh, I'm sure he'd listen. Well, folks, there you have it. If you're looking for a good holiday read or even a gift to give this holiday season, Hanukkah, Christmas, whatever you celebrate, that's a good one. What's up, Grant?
Read Chill Factor. If you are interested in a hockey book, it's about the Columbus Chill, which was the minor league team that existed here before the Blue Jackets, and their success and popularity kind of alerted the NHL of Columbus as a market. Read Chill Factor if you are interested in if you need a hockey book for this winter. I vouch for that.
Folks, I would say Santa's coming early. There you have it. Contact us, Facebook, Twitter, as you know, email if you're old school, hardhathockey1@gmail.com. As always, we want to hear from you. Find us on Spotify, find us on Apple Podcasts, Podbean, YouTube channel, whatever you desire. Leave a comment, leave a review. Let us know what you want. We'll have you on the show. How fun would that be? Scores today. We got Blues at the Canes. We got Caps at the Golden Knights. We got Rangers at Kraken. That'll be a fun one. They're on a little roll here, Seattle. And then Preds at the Vancouver Canucks. Vancouver Canucks, of course, coming off a victory over, I hate to say it, Johnny, I'm sorry, the Chicago Blackhawks. fun thing to talk about there later with Connor Bedard. Seemed like the entire city of his family filled the entire arena. So that was fun to see. Before we get to it, though, let's open up with our tradition that we love here, Hockey Team Kaboom. If you're new with us, this is our segment where we compare random categories to NHL teams. I put the boys on the spot, and they're going to deliver. Are we ready, gentlemen? Ready to go? All right, let's do it. Hockey Team Kaboom. Thanksgiving food is the category today, seeing as we are so close to one of the great American holidays. Let's start with turkey. The grand prize of Thanksgiving, folks. A roasted turkey makes a perfect celebratory centerpiece. A second one is that turkey is also practical for serving to a large crowd. Naturally, that goes without saying. This is just what the Google definition spat out at me. It's obvious, right? This is the team captain. Who wants it first? Turkey. What's the team?
Okay. Go ahead, dude.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I just had Trent kind of took it from me at the beginning, but the Kraken, they're on a 4-game win streak. And I feel like as, the casual fan, they're in a way like kind of getting their season started right now. And that just feels good, just like a big old turkey leg. So my turkey would be the Kraken.
Love that answer. I honestly, I didn't think anyone was going to name the turkey as the Kraken. So kind of unexpected, but I love the way you defend.
The fun thing about Hockey Team Kaboom is there is no wrong answer as long as you can, throw together some reasoning. So that great job on that one, John.
The only other, the obvious one would be the Ducks, only because then you're going like turducken. There's no chicken team yet in the NHL. So that would be like the more fun casual one for a really crappy hockey team. But you got to give some love to the Kraken for winning, I think, a lot of the games that they should be winning. And in a way, like kind of getting things started for their season.
Impressive.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so what I do I really do try to spread out the answers. I try not to reuse teams too much. Probably guilty of bringing up the Canes probably a little too much because they have such an identifiable style that, you can attach to something. I'm not going to overthink this one any bit. The Turkey's the star of the show. It's the Stanley Cup champs. It's the Florida Panthers. You win the cup, you get to be the Turkey the next year. Like that's just kind of what it is. I know I used Florida last week. We're doing Florida again. It's just if you're the cup holder, if you the Stanley Cup champion, you're got that prime real estate on the middle of the Thanksgiving table. Little bit turkey, not my favorite like food in the world. I'm not a picky eater. I think if turkey didn't have Thanksgiving, I don't know how popular turkey would be. Let's be honest here. I mean, that's, you're not eating it much throughout the year. It is other than Thanksgiving. So good on turkey. Great PR team that they got an entire holiday. Quick question for you guys. When you do Thanksgiving, do you guys do it like buffet style? Everyone kind of fixes a plate and then goes to a table, or do you put all the food on the table, sit down, and pass it around?
Buffet. It's efficient.
Yeah, we're buffet. It's an efficiency play. I would say, it's good on the the farmers or the manufacturers of turkey. I'm sure turkeys are pretty bummed about the holiday. They're kind of like the real loser.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting into some existential questions there.
I talk to turkeys, once or twice a week. My job, and so and they're not super looking forward to the next couple weeks. But
folks, this is why he's our exclusive analyst on the ground in Chicago. This is why he's been employed with Hardhead Hockey since we started. So, and this is why you're seeing it in the flesh.
Original investor.
I think. Thanks, Johnny. I think. I think buffet is the way to go. I think you only see the family style like in movies.
All right, let's move on to stuffing. Number 2, stuffing is a seasoned mixture of ingredients that is typically used to fill the cavity of a food item, in this case, turkey, before cooking. Stuffing is often made with a bread or starch base, but can also include other ingredients like herbs, vegetables, fruits, nuts, or sausage, etc., etc., etc. Quick note here before you all answer. one of the best things to make is the post Thanksgiving Day sandwich, little roll, little turk, little stuffing, little cranberry sauce, which we're going to get to, then sandwich on top of that.
Oh,
Hot take. So stuffing, who wants it?
I wouldn't say that that's a hot take. I think that's a very solid take, a consistent take. And I hate to be redundant, but my stuffing was the Panthers because stuffing is my favorite, up there, it's my favorite side.
Yeah, sure.
And so I know what I'm going to get every day and probably for the next 2 to 3 days after Thanksgiving with leftover stuffing. And Panthers are 8-2 over the last 10 games. And they just win. And I feel like from a consistency standpoint, stuffing and the Panthers are we're born for each other. So that'd be my take.
And let it be known, the Panthers just steamrolled the best team in hockey 5-0. So who really is the best team in hockey? Well, remains to be seen. But it's pointing south right now for me. Grant?
I think that's a great observation, Johnny. I think that's a phenomenal one. I think stuffing is probably the best thing on the plate when it's done properly and you're just in that mode. The stuffing, more so than turkey in my mind, epitomizes Thanksgiving. And I'm going to stay original 6 here. I'm going to pick a team that just kind of really just epitomizes hockey. I'm giving this to the Detroit Red Wings. Just that logo, Detroit, it's hockey, it's fall, it's it warms your soul. And I hate the Red Wings, but something about that Red Wings logo is just synonymous with hockey, especially here in the States. Maybe if I was Canadian, I would say the Canadians are the Leafs, but I'm not. So we're going to keep it south of the border here. We're just going to say like stuffing is Thanksgiving. The Red Wings are hockey. Like, 'tis the season.
I got to say, it is one of the best logos in sports.
That too. If stuffing was a logo, it would be similar to the Red Wings.
All right, moving right along. Let's go to the weird one: cranberry sauce. You love it or you hate it. I know some people who are very loyal. I know other people who won't come near it with a 10-foot pole. Homage to the Grinch there. That's coming up as well. It's sweet, tart, tanginess can be used with a variety of meats, including turkey, pork, chicken, and ham. Cranberry sauce is often eaten in conjunction with turkey. Again, that's what Google sped out at me. Turkey being Thanksgiving. Here we are. Cranberry sauce.
Yeah, so I'll get us started. And there's not a whole lot of sweetness in Blackhawks fans' life right now, but with Bedard's with Bedard's homecoming in Vancouver, which was, I mean, to put it bluntly, like pretty bland. The reception he got from the crowd, his friends, his family, we got to remember, and we'll get into the Blackhawks obviously in a little bit, but guy's 19 years old. Like, he gets drafted 18 years old. I don't even know if he was 18. He might've been 17. And he's had the third largest city, from their hockey team on his shoulders. And so I just felt like he needed a little love. I would have been great if he had scored at least anything during the game. But from a cranberry, I look at that as like the sweet option of Thanksgiving. It was a sweet reception and kind of just a bummer of a game, but that reception itself, lended me to pick the Blackhawks as my cranberry.
Okay. I love every part of that answer, Jimmy. Grant?
That was great. A little different. I think it's too cliche to say like you either love this or you hate this. I think it's just like it's very foreign in a way that like I don't remember having cranberry sauce as an option growing up. That kind of came later in life. So I'm just gonna say a little different, a little out of left field. Vancouver Canucks. You're up in British Columbia. It's a little different. Passionate support, passionate following. Certainly in the zeitgeist in a lot of ways. When you think of hockey, you think of Thanksgiving, but I would see like cultural references to that and just not be able to relate to it at all. Similar ways that I see the Vancouver fan base and just unable to relate in any capacity to what's going on up there. Even though I respect it and I do enjoy it, that's come later in life. I don't know. My uncle is a chef, like a retired chef here in Columbus. Shout out Uncle Jay. And he would do like creative versions of cranberry sauce, not the stuff like out of the can, the like slices. So it'd be like cranberry infused something, and that would kind of take that version of it. I didn't know that the canned stuff was so popular. But yeah, that's my pick, and that's my understanding of what cranberry sauce is. Usually some good hockey on around this time of year. It feels good. You start to see the kind of the holiday season peak. So you're starting to peak.
Well, there you have it, folks. Hockey Team Kaboom. Just for the record, I am a loyalist to cranberry sauce. I think it's great.
It's good.
To bring up a great point here, this is one of my favorite times of year for the hockey season specifically. You start to see teams go on the road, holiday season hockey. You get to really know your new acquisitions, your the players that you added to the roster in the offseason. They start to take the first road trips. A lot of teams now have the behind the scenes shows of their own, usually on YouTube. I've been watching Behind the B on Boston. Very good one. Peak Access is the one for the Avs. I watched that one as well. I sent one to Johnny.
It's a good name.
Yeah, I thought so too. Johnny, what
The name is so important for these sort of things.
what's the name of the Chicago one, Johnny? You remember?
The bar we went to?
No. The behind the scenes show that they do.
Johnny's thinking about drinking.
Yeah, I was. I actually don't recall. I don't recall.
Okay, well, I'll find it. Anyways, yeah, just search Chicago. They do a behind the scenes show on YouTube. Kind of goes in depth. The last episode featured a lot of Seth Jones, which was cool, and kind of just
I know. I'll find it.
Shout out Seth.
He's talking about the struggles of the team recently and how they're going to bounce back. We'll see if they will. But speaking of, so holiday season coming up, we got Black Friday coming up. A lot of money to spend, but also a lot of money to be made. So let me help your wallet with some stock market tips of your own. And let's go right in here, starting with the most impressive scores of the week. So, boys, add at the end. I'm going to blast through these, then add whatever you want at the end. Stars beat the Penguins 7-1 on the road. Senators beat the Leafs 3-0 on the road. Great win. They were dominant in Toronto. Very impressive. Jets beat the Rangers 6-3 on the road in a star-studded matchup. The Stars went on to beat the Bruins 7-2 at home. So there's 2 touchdowns for the Dallas Stars in 2 games. The Caps beat the Avs 5-2 on the road in Colorado. That was a real stinker. Colorado's goaltending in all its glory was on full display. The Avs were limited to 19 shots on goal, and the Caps only had 20 shots on goal and scored 5 of them. So that's fun. The Lightning beat the Devils 4-0 at home. Panthers beat the Jets 5-0 at home. State of Florida is firing on all cylinders right now for this holiday season. Any performances you all want to add? Okay.
Can I add the Jackets game Friday night?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jackets Friday night at home against the hated Pittsburgh Penguins. Nice 6-2 win at home. Ended a 6-game slide. Arena was packed. A lot of Pens fans in the building, as there usually are. A lot of them probably live in the Columbus area. That's just the way it is, unfortunately. If it's just kind of how it is around here. If you liked hockey before the Jackets were around, decent chance you're a Red Wings or a Pens fan. There's a lot of Steelers fans in Columbus. I don't know where they come from, but yeah, that's just the way it is. But they were silent. They were pretty silent Friday night. Jackets get 6 goals on the scoreboard. Zach got a power play goal. Matthew Olivier, the bruiser, found the back of the net for the 3rd goal. That was kind of a really deciding goal. Game was kind of in a balance at that point. It was a lot of fun. First time being in the arena this year. Went down after a work day, had a couple adult beverages, something classy, really great time. This game used to mean something because I know that the Penguins have been the ones to lift the cups, and all respect in the world. I got the best player in the world at 87. But you can go back during the Tortorella years, man. We were neck and neck with them for like points and just, wins and losses. I mean, we were right there, and those games were intense. And, Friday was fun, but you look on the ice and it's two teams at the bottom of the division, and it's tough. I mean, I'm excited. I'm happy I went. It was great. I love hockey here in Columbus, but it's just, you see it. You see the product. There's just a lot of shots missing the net, a lot of guys not being in the right place. Like, it was a sloppy game. And hopefully one day, maybe not too soon, but maybe one day this game will be like with two teams at the top of the division instead of what we have right now. But happy to get the win, kind of put a pep in my step, and then the Jackets got destroyed in Montreal, which is not good because they're not good either. So that's kind of the vibe right now. Is I think reality is setting in Columbus a little bit. We've talked a lot on this show about where you are around Thanksgiving, where you are around Christmas. Jackets are in the bottom of the Metro right now, and we're getting close to those holidays.
If there is a division that could flip, I would say that is the one which plays in their favor. Let's talk about.
I wish I had the optimism that you did, Trevor. The past 3 episodes, Trent's is like, don't count them out. Don't give up. And I'm not giving up. I love this team. But it's like, they're not. They're going to be near the bottom. They're not going to be a bottom 5 team in the league, I don't think. But they're not going to be near the middle. I don't know. It's a tough spot right now. Kent Johnson should be back in a couple weeks, though. So that's good.
Huge help. It's a magical time of year. I'm here to instill hope in all Americans and international. Well, so let's talk little puck luck. This is a stat that we've kept close eyes on since the start of the season. As a reminder, the PDO stat, the puck luck stat, is the combination of shooting percentage and save percentage. Those with a higher number can basically perceived as getting a lot of bounces their way. We call it puck luck. Doesn't necessarily indicate that they are just leaning on the luck. Some of these teams could very well just be very good. So the top 5 here, the question at the end, are there any frauds in this list? So let's list them. Number 1, we got the Jets. Number 2, Rangers. Number 3, Washington Capitals. Number 4, Minnesota Wild. Number 5, Vegas Golden Knights. Are there any frauds in this list, gentlemen? I mean, hurt their feelings. Go for it.
Oh, the only one that would stand out to me is I would say would be Washington, only because I just feel like they're still like riding on the high of trying to get Ovechkin to break the points record. And it's like, how long can that steam go for? We're almost 25% of the way through the season, and they're still playing really good hockey. So it's like, well, is this just who they are? Which would be great for Washington Capital fans. So that's my opinion.
They're the team that stands out in that list that you're like, one of these don't belong. Like, they're a team that you look at and be like, well, they can't keep this up. But Johnny's right. Like, we're about a quarter of the way into this, and they're a top 3 team in the Metro. If you made me bet on this, I'm probably going to say the Rangers are going to catch them, but they've banked enough points that they're at least going to be involved in this race for a while.
Okay, let's go unlucky teams. The bottom 5 of this list, we got Edmonton Oilers, Colorado Avalanche, Nashville Predators, Philadelphia Flyers, and Pittsburgh Penguins. I got a question here listed, but I'm going to rephrase it. Which teams on this list are going to stay unlucky?
Oh, okay. Probably Nashville, but we've harped on them too much. Can I get those teams again one more time, Trent?
You got Oilers, Abs, Preds, Flyers, Pens.
The Pens.
I think so too. I think Pittsburgh's in a world of trouble right now. They're surrounded by trade rumors. Mike Sullivan is officially on the hot seat. This article, according to Hockey News, I don't love where this is headed. I think there's going to be at least one, if not 2, big names shipped out of that city this year, and it's going to be tough.
Who do you think will be moved?
Erik Karlsson.
That makes the most sense, right?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. $10 million hit. defensive numbers aren't great, and
they're not good. But I think there's still some tread on those tires. I think if you got in the right scenario and you just told them like pin your ears back and go on like a team trying to make a playoff push. But I don't know who would it be.
Let's just talk about it now too.
Yeah.
I've got it listed for later in the show. But so the Swedish national team coach from a couple years back, Johan Garpenlov, I didn't know who this guy was, publicly calls out Erik Karlsson this week, saying that he should not make the Swedish national team this year for the Four Nations tournament. Ouch. I mean, kind of unnecessary. It didn't really, get the. I mean, why you got to put the guy on blast like that? But I mean,
that's very Scandinavian.
There's some truth there, though. I mean, the Pittsburgh Penguins are struggling, and if you watch their games defensively, it's tough. It's tough.
There's not a lot of like defensive framework there.
No,
they're not. Like Letang's out. Like they're not playing with a lot of foundation. It's interesting. It's very interesting to watch them play. And I've only seen, a game in person Friday, and I've watched like a handful of games on ESPN Plus. Like if Gino and Sid aren't on the ice like tilts the other way. Now, when those guys are out there, they're good enough to impact the play, and it's the same old Pens, and they generate shots and they generate scoring opportunities. And the power play isn't good. You think it should be, but like we know it's not. But like if those guys aren't on the ice, it's kind of jarring because you're just like, who are we watching right now?
Right.
And I mean that's been the roster makeup for the past couple of years. They haven't reinforced anything outside of that top pairing and that top group.
Yeah, the Ryan Graves contract, he's on their second line defensively at $5 million. That one's looking rough, and he's inked for I think 4 more years, at a minimum 3. They're gonna have a tough time putting competitive.
What's Karlsson's cap hit? Do you have it up?
10.5.
That's pretty substantial.
That's tough. That's going to be tough to move. I don't know the team that comes to mind would be the Anaheim Ducks, only because they have so much cap space. But
they could take it on. They get an asset. Yeah. That's what a lot of these bad teams, like the Jackets, ought to do something like that. Not for Karlsson.
We've got divisional breakdown on deck here. Let's just keep rolling with the Metro. So we talked about the Pens. Other big news in the Metropolitan. Freddie Anderson out of Carolina is going to be out for the Carolina Hurricanes for a, quote, very long time. This coming from Coach Rob Brindamore. As always, the Canes are elite regular season, and this is where they fall short in the playoffs. Seems like every single year. Is this gonna be a problem long term? Are we gonna run it? Is this gonna be the same ending for the Canes?
I'm believing this is a problem until they prove that it's not.
Yeah,
and I don't root against the Canes, and you certainly don't root for injuries. But we've seen this story before, and it's a shame. And the Washington Capitals will benefit more than anybody.
Speaking of the Caps, they are third place in a stat that we broke down this week. This is 5v5 expected goals for per 60 minutes. That third place coming in at 3.12 expected goals per game. Now that is at even strength, leaves out these special teams, but they're playing well, man. I kind of had high hopes for the Avs the other night when they came into town. Let it be known that the Avs goaltending was just a piece of Swiss cheese, and that didn't help the cause. However, give them credit. They beat the Avs on home ice and beat them handily. So they're making it happen. Ovechkin is on a tear. We talked about it last week.
They're here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, a quick note on Ovi. The Jackets beat writer pointed this out. Last game for the Caps is against the Jackets. So if he keeps going on this run, and you're doing Ovi watch into April,
nice,
yeah.
Like it. So real quick, let's hit the other divisions before we get to the Cubs.
Real quick, Flyers won 3 straight. They did the jump up the standings. It's still early enough. If you can string together a couple wins, you'll go from like 7th to 5th. That you kind of start gaining some spots. Philly did that. Obviously, I was hoping my own team would do that, but Philly's now in the mix.
So a method to the madness for Coach John Tortorella. We kind of gave him a hard time last weekend when we talked about him benching blue chip prospect Matt Bay Mitchkov. maybe a little bit of a wake-up call there, 3 in a row.
Coach Tortorella, if you're listening to this, I want you to know I never once questioned your methods. I'm a firm follower of the Tortorella School of Hockey. So
Okay.
believe in it.
I did, notably, and I'm sorry, John, don't yell at me. That'd be scary. Okay, let's get to the other two divisions really quick before we get to the coveted Central, where we take our deep dive into Chicago. We get Johnny on the field here under center, put him in shotgun, let him run around a little bit. Okay, so let's go to Atlantic real quick. The Sens are 10th in expected goals for per 60 at even strength, coming in at 2.6 expected goals per game. They're playing well. I know they dropped their last game, but they won that game in Toronto. They won that game in Boston. They're a team that is going to be hard to beat, and I almost think they've got a better odds to make the playoffs than not at this point. I really think that a wild
would have to look at those projections. I'm sure we can find those numbers, but I mean they're proving your point that they're going to be tough to play against, and they're banking points against division rivals, which is like that's huge this time of year.
I think the odds almost fit. It's more likely that they make the playoffs than not at this point, at least in my opinion. I think they got a good thing going. What we talked about is they got to stay healthy. They've got some older guys on the roster with David Perron and Claude Giroux. Those guys stay healthy. They're a tough team to play against.
They got some games in hand too. I think they played 2 less games than Toronto and Boston. Toronto, you got to make 2 on that, but like when you look at the standings and see that, it kind of perk up a little bit.
It's them, Tampa, and Toronto, I think, all have games in hand on Boston, which is tough news for them right now. They got to get some wins in a row here. We get to get the Wizard of Boston rolling. Also, note on that stat that we talked about just now with the Sens, they're the only team in the Atlantic in the top 10 for expected goals for at 5-on-5. So keep that in mind.
That's interesting.
The Detroit Red Wings, however, are last in the stat, 1.96 expected goals per game. They blew a pretty big lead the other night in Anaheim. Kudos to the Ducks. Big lead. They were up, I think, 3-1 late in the game, and then the Ducks ended up winning 6-4.
Yeah, I didn't watch that game. I wish I would have. I saw like my Twitter timeline was just like Wings fans just being like, "Are we just gonna admit that this didn't work? Like the rebuild just didn't work."
It's tough times in Motown right now. We'll have to do a deeper dive on them, perhaps next episode.
Do we know? We got to find a Red Wings correspondent because I want some like deep details.
Well, yeah, we're bound to know one. We'll find one.
Okay.
Let's jump to the Pacific really quick. So just for the record, I was in San Diego this weekend. Happy to report that the San Diego Gulls have a pretty big contingency down there. We went to the track, Del Mar, bet on some ponies, and I just naturally, I'm a talker. I make small talk, and I brought up the minor league hockey team locally. Every single person I asked about were huge supporters, say it's a great time. So kudos to that market.
Is that AHL or East Coast League?
That's AHL. They are the minor league team for the Anaheim Ducks, just up the road. So that's
nice.
Cool connection. I also found the official beer of the Anaheim Ducks. Grant, I sent you a picture of that. Great blonde ale. Went down very, very, very smooth. The Ducks are 4-0-1 when Leo Carlsson is scoring this season. So good news is when he's rolling, the whole team's rolling. Bad news is they're leaning on him heavily right now, especially with some injuries. Robbie Fabry will be out for 6 more weeks. He had knee surgery for a torn meniscus. Edmonton Oilers are 6th in the league right now at expected goals for per 60 at 5v5. That stat we were just talking about. However, they've got some goaltending problems. They're right there with the Avs. The Stuart Skinner starting results are minus 7.7. So that stat this week is new. That is expected goals against minus actual goals against. So if that spits out a negative number, essentially, that's telling you that goalie is underperforming, and minus 7.7, that's a pretty drastic underperformance for Skinner. That's been a problem for them for a long time. We said it at the start of the year. If they're serious about a Stanley Cup run, they have to address that.
Is there a scenario where they end up being like a wild card team, but based on the matchups, that's better than being like second or third?
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Like they end up playing the Jets.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, absolutely. Which would be kind of hilarious. Yeah.
I'm putting my marker down. Odds of that happening probably a little slim, but not zero. Where they somehow get to play the Jets in round one as a wild card team and just bounce them.
If you're Winnipeg, you absolutely hate that possibility. A goaltending tandem to keep your eyes on is the Anaheim Ducks. So Lucas Dostal, that stat we just talked about, and just to recap, it's goals expected minus actual goals against. So again, if it's a negative number, you're underperforming. Positive number, you're overperforming. Lucas Dostal is number one in the league right now in this stat, coming in at plus 10.4. So playing fantastic on a struggling Ducks team. He's clearly not the problem. And John Gibson is coming back. I mentioned this goalie tandem because they now have a luxury in that, kind of the Boston Bruins of last season when they had Ullmark and Swayman. Two goalies. I expect one of those guys to be traded. It's not going to be Dostal. He's young. Gibson, $6 million cap hit. I wonder if the Oilers don't go knocking on their door. So we'll keep that.
We're going to hear Gibson's name. We're going to hear his name until the deadline, probably.
He's getting moved this year, I have no doubt. I wonder if the Avs don't take a swing because they clearly have some issues of their own in that. And just fun fact here, too. Joey Dackard in Seattle, big reason why they're winning 3 in a row.
I like him.
He's number 3 in this stat. So he's playing.
I like him a lot.
Okay, let's get our boy off the bench here. Let's get him in. I want shotgun rocket rip trips, Johnny. Let's get you in here. It's just a little kudos to Johnny and I used to hold up the boards. We used to do the play calls on Worcester Fighting Scots football. So great time. Johnny, you want to speak to that just for 1 second, just how much you loved that time?
Yeah, I mean, it brings me back to a couple of things. One is that our offense doesn't move without us. So I mean, there's a lot of, greatest of all time, most valuable player. I mean, without Trent and I, and shout out Zach Moore, obviously you're listening. The offense doesn't run a play. So, and then there's nothing like 38 degrees. It's raining sideways, 25-mile-per-hour winds, and you're trying to hold on to those boards in the middle of nowhere, Ohio.
Playing Kenyon.
Yeah, and then the kicker misses the kick and we lose. And guess who gets blamed on Monday? It's the boards because we weren't getting the plays up fast enough. So, there's a lot of reasons why teams win and lose every day, regardless of the sport. But just shout out to all the board guys out there. You're the real foundation of every team.
There could be 15 turnovers in the game, and somehow the boards were getting debriefed. All right, let's move right into the Central Division here. Here's a couple stats before we dive into Chicago. The Dallas Stars are 5th in the league in expected goals for even strength. 2.73 is what they are cranking out right now. St. Louis Blues, however, are 31st, 2.09. I will say, I got to give the Blues some credit. They're battling. They're doing what they can. They got a lot of injuries. I know we mentioned Torrey Krug out for the season. Philip Broberg just went down recently. And they battled with Boston on home ice. Lost a late one there. Boston came back and won 3-2, but then turned around and won in Boston, I think in overtime, 3-2. So they're putting up a fight. Give them some credit. And that's an Avs rival right there. So I know St. Louis fans, see, I can spread the love too. Okay, Johnny, let's talk about fun times before we get into some darkness. Game in Vancouver, we mentioned Connor Bedard. Quote, "I'll be paying to play for a day," in reference to how many tickets he was going to have to buy for all the family and friends coming to the Vancouver game. So that's the fun part. Sad part, they lost 1-4 at the hands of the Vancouver Canucks and JT Miller at the helm. Chicago's offense right now is 27th in goals for per 60. They are 27th in expected goals for per 60. They are 12th, however, in goals against per 60. So that's not terrible. 23rd in expected goals against per 60. So that tells you right there that their defense may be overperforming, maybe rather goaltending, keeping more pucks out of the net than expected, which is cool. Power play is 12th in goals for per 60, but 6th in expected goals for per 60. So that tells me right there, they're generating good chances on the power play. That is 100% in large part due to our boy, Connor Bedard. Penalty kill, not terrible. 10th in goals against, 5th in expected goals against, so that's good. Here's a fun stat I found for you. When they play on Tuesday nights right now, they're 0-4. What's up with that?
Well, what's up with
That's
that is
fun.
I'm biking down Ogden Avenue. Shout out Ogden Avenue, Chicago, Illinois. And sure enough, they're pushing, and it's right next to it borders where the United Center is. They're like, come watch the Hawks Tuesday night against the Ducks. Guess what I'm not going to do now? I am not going to go to that Tuesday night game. I will wait till Wednesday because apparently we don't show up that day. But it's not like I could watch the game anyway, and I live a mile from the UC. So, but I know you guys spent a lot of time already talking about that issue in the NHL. So
I'm happy to talk about that anytime.
Yeah. So real quick, Johnny. So you do have an opportunity to go this Wednesday. That's your next opportunity. They play the Ducks at home. So I would recommend you attend that one. But we about Chicago right now, like, do you feel frustration amongst the fans not being able to watch the games?
What do you think?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I guess can you like,
you get it you're with your Avalanche and from the crazy streaming services you've probably had to use in the past to watch your team. I mean, it's just incredibly disappointing. So all around, and no, I give very little blame to someone like Bedard. You know, he's got 3 goals this season. Like, would it be great if he had more? Of course. Again, he's 19 years old. The good news, I know we were kind of harping on this earlier, but I actually think it's still relatively good news. Like, we aren't quite at 25% of the way through the season. There's a lot of hockey left.
Yeah.
A lot of hockey. And for Blackhawks fans, you know, for myself, who's a casual fan and trying to get more into it, it's just been like completely a buzzkill not being able to watch the team play at all. And
feels like you can't get any momentum as a fan.
Exactly.
You can't get in the rhythm of working it into your consumption.
I watching the play-by-play happen on the Apple Sports app just doesn't do it for me. And
shout out to the Apple Sports app though. It is pretty clean. It's good.
Very clean.
I like it.
It gives me direction on what I want to watch.
Yeah.
But I can't watch this. And it's very frustrating. Now, the team itself hasn't performed to the level that we were hoping that they would this year and take the steps that we are looking. I'm very cautiously optimistic, though, that we're going to give it some more time. We got a lot of new folks in that building. A lot of those new folks haven't been performing. And again, disappointing, but I don't see, I just think it comes back to expectations. I'm just going to relate it to football real quick. Like, Chicago Bears fans came into this year and, you know, they're expecting a 10-11 win season once they got Caleb. And I'm like, guys, you have to be okay with the fact you're probably going to win 7, maybe 8 games this year. And that's going to be a big improvement. And I think Blackhawks fans are a lot more realistic in the fact that we probably knew we weren't going to make the playoffs. The whole goal, in my opinion, was let's not be the doormat of the league this year. Mm-hmm. If we're not the doormat of the league, Bedard stays healthy for the year, we have just more competitive games, like, that's a win. So in my opinion, just to sum it up, it's far too early to write off anything. I do believe you did reference one thing. Just want to give a shout out to our goaltending, because I truly believe that it's not given enough love. You know, again, as a casual hockey fan, Mrazek, Sonderblom, I think is the way to pronounce his last name. I know we have another goalie coming back from IR. Like, they show up every night and give us a chance to win. And that's all you can really ask for from a goal. Like, I'm sure
a lot of teams would be jealous of that.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, the Avs would probably love any of that.
Yeah.
Shout out.
That'd be great.
and I guess just to put a bow on it, you know, Chicago Sports Network, I think is what it's called, CSN. They're launching an app. But the reality is, I pay, like a lot of people, for a live streaming service that gives me sports that
what do you use, Johnny? Just to be
Hulu Live TV. They do a great, a lot of ESPN and all the hockey, you know, all of the hockey except the team that I could walk 15 minutes to, and it's blacked out, you know. So it's a damn shame.
So to just really simplify this, the Chicago Sports Network is not available on Hulu Live.
Correct.
if you did want to watch that, your options are it's available over the air through an antenna, correct?
So an antenna.
Is it on what's the cable provider? Is it Xfinity in Chicago? Is that what everyone uses?
Yeah, Xfinity, and they don't have an agreement with Xfinity yet.
Yes. Okay, so that's the big one I wanted to say is like a lot of your kind of like standard, like just the type of folks that just, they spend $100 on cable and they don't want to think too hard about it, which is like a lot of people. It's not available to them. And then the cord cutters, which is kind of where Johnny is with his Hulu Live and where I've been in a large part of my life, it's not available on that either. Now, Johnny and I have talked off show about like the antenna thing. I have other friends in Chicago that I've talked to that says they bought an antenna and it doesn't work. So like the reception, the bandwidth that the folks behind the Chicago Sports Network are putting into it isn't really strong enough in a large city like Chicago. So like antennas are just like it's waves that you just try to like pick up through an antenna, and you need. This sounds silly. I'm really oversimplifying this, but like dumbing it down, like you need strong waves, and you're competing against large buildings and other waves, and like it should be this difficult to watch your team.
It's the windy city. How are we gonna? We can't. It's too windy out here. No, political reference, of course, but there's no incentive for the Blackhawks to invest in. We'll call it stronger waves, because if everyone gets it for free with an antenna, why are they building an app or negotiating with?
Well, the idea is you can sell ad space. If you can say like, hey, if our product is getting to 5 million people, which is a lot, that'd be a lot for a sporting event. But let's say like a really prime Saturday night Hawks game is getting 2.5 million people. If you're in charge of ad sales, like you can go to, any one of the big businesses in Chicago and say, advertise with us. We have a very cutting edge kind of system here. We're broadcasting to people with disposable income that, go to sporting events. Like that's the motivation. But if you're not even getting that, if your reach isn't that high because people can't even like tap into the channel, your ratings are going to be low. Like you're not even able to talk about ratings if your reach is low. And the appeal of going antenna is it is a huge reach, because the only barrier of entry is buying an antenna, which a lot of people our age don't. I have one because it makes sense here in Columbus, but it's pretty simple. You don't pay. It's not like you have to pay a monthly, but like the tech has to work and the function has to work, and you gotta convince people to do it. Johnny, real quick, is this the White Sox are going to be on this too come the spring, correct?
It's Blackhawks, Bulls, and White Sox that are all tied to it.
What was the second one you said in there?
Bulls.
Bulls, basketball. Yeah. I mean, this has potential to be interesting, but it's not the implementing it. That's the word I want. Hasn't worked. And the direct to streamer app, that's probably where a lot of this is going to come like to fruition. But if you miss the start of the season and you already have a fan base that's frustrated, if I'm a sports fan in Chicago and I've seen just how much of a debacle this is out of the gate, and frankly, how disappointing the Hawks are to a larger extent, I'm not going to give that group of owners $20 a month for a streaming service.
There's no reason to reward bad behavior. And like someone like Nick Foligno has come out and said, thank goodness, our fans can't see us yet because we're not playing good hockey.
I love Nick, dude. That's so funny.
Right? Great shooter, captain. And so, I don't want to belabor the point. I love the fact that we have such a rich history of hockey in this city, and we're going to turn things around and whatnot. It's just when you get the business stuff in the way on top of the team not performing, it's really hard to find a happy Blackhawks fan right now. So Anyway, that's my
And
thoughts, Trent.
if you don't want to mess with the TV viewership situation, just walk down to the United Center. You got the opportunity this week twice. You got the Ducks at home, and then you got the Panthers at home. That's going to be a tough game to win. And then you go on the road to Philly playing the Flyers. So winnable games here. Obviously, the Panthers will be tough. Flyers are on a little bit of a win streak, but certainly a week where the Hawks can maybe build some momentum off of a rough couple of weeks here in November.
Trent, from your standpoint, kind of was like the unbiased kind of like hockey brain here. We talked about, the Hawks needing to show some semblance of like an identity. It's going to be tough because there's a lot of other bad teams, but if you can be a top 3 pick, like that doesn't hurt, right? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Like, like in the draft. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, what like because they can hurt themselves. Like if they have a really great month of March and go from like picking, top 3 to 10,
right.
That.
So here's how I see this playing out. I think you got 2 unrestricted free agents coming up in Taylor Hall and Ryan Donato. If you're in the business of developing younger guys like a Kurashev or a Lucas Reichel or obviously a Connor Bedard, you don't necessarily want to lock up guys right now to larger contracts. So I do think that they're going to trade one, if not both of these guys to get some kind of return. Donato's 28, Hall is 33. So at the trade deadline is when we see obviously teams commit to buying and selling. Obviously, goes without saying. But also where we see kind of the parity separate a little bit because you do lose, admittedly, pretty good players on the trade market. So when they do execute these trades, which again I'm just speculating, they'll probably submit themselves into a lower standing and have a higher draft. So yeah, I do think it's going to naturally occur and worth it.
They have 2 first-round picks in 2025. So the next draft. One of the picks is from Toronto. I doubt that'll be high, but it's still good value. And they got 2 second-round picks as well. They have Dallas's second-round pick.
Yeah.
So they have 4 options to really maybe bring in some assets, and we'll need to do so. I'll start diving into draft prospects and stuff because for some teams that's where the eyes are going to start looking.
Yeah, 100%. They're going to be able to solidify an already loaded prospect pool. So we'll see how that plays out. Let me tell you who I'm buying and selling, and then we'll move on. So I'm selling Taylor Hall. He was just made a healthy scratch, which is really unfortunate. He battled back from injury all last season, obviously. He has 6 points in 17 games and is a -6 this season. Like I said, he's 33. This is the last year of his $6 million deal. Unfortunately, probably the last big deal he gets. I do think he has a place on a different team, but I foresee Chicago's going to deal him. John, you got any takes on that?
Well, it's a lot of hope with Hall and Bedard being able to play together and be able to like lean on a former number 1 pick. Injury last year was devastating for him. And I don't really see a place for him. And so it probably makes more sense, like you said, for them to deal him. It's just a bummer when you get someone like Seth Jones, who's actually been, I'd call it a bright spot, and now he's on injured reserve. He takes up a lot of ice time, and we need it because our defense, in my opinion, is just really young and still developing. And so, it's not really like I hope this comes off the right way. And of course I want us to win hockey games, but at this point for like the rest of the season, it just comes down to development, competitiveness, and sure, just go into next year with some momentum. But I also, as a Steelers fan, and I'll relate this, we're never bad enough to get a high draft pick, and we're never good enough to win a Super Bowl. And so for the Blackhawks, if they go on a run in March and they go from 3 to 10, and now we end up with like that would be a bad situation. But I still ultimately believe from a culture standpoint, you should want to win every hockey game, because as soon as you start playing around with that seeps into like a guy's brain like Bedard, where he shows up every day wanting to win and be a legend. And I want him to be a part of a team that every day goes out and expects, or at least hopes to win, and not put anything.
The guys never tank. Like hockey, you just can't tell these guys not to win. It's the stuff around it. You put guys on IR, you deal guys at the deadline. It's weird. And I'm glad tanking culture isn't super ingrained in the sport. I think sometimes people want it to be. But there's always going to be a trade-off. There's always going to be a balance. One pick can just change the whole trajectory of your organization. And Bedard's one of those guys. So that in itself is worth kind of tuning in for.
Let me tell you who I'm buying. You got a guy in Lucas Reichel. He is currently sitting on the fourth line center. He's 22 years old, playing between Pat Maroon and Craig Smith. So two older guys. They muck it up. I don't think that's the best situation for his development. And I think when these trades ultimately do occur, again, we're projecting, but once they do, that opens the door for a guy like a Lucas Reichel to step up into a larger role, move up on the depth chart, and grow a little bit in his game. He was drafted 17th overall in the 2020 draft, coming from Nuremberg, Germany. Threw that in there as a shout out to all our German friends.
Shout out to our German listeners.
Yep. 6 points, 14 games played, currently a -1, which again, on the Chicago team, that's not bad. Like we said, they're a green team. It's not bad at all for a young
You're not part of the problem there.
Right. So I think the trade is important too for the development of a guy like this. That's why I'm buying stock in Lucas Reichel.
Reichel has had, he's 22 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like a lot of people in Chicago act like he's like 28 years old, which is still not that old, relatively, but like he had a lot of high expectations, coming in as a pretty high draft pick and he didn't really fit in with, I believe, the coach's like vision or style of hockey that he was really looking for. And not to relate it back to football, but Russell Wilson and Sean Payton just didn't vibe together and they needed to go play elsewhere. I think Reichel, he's moldable and he's molding himself into being a really productive player. So yeah, I'm really hopeful that he's a part of like that next generation of great Blackhawks players.
That was a strange time for the Blackhawks too. Cause like, I think a lot of people realized like, hey, it's the window's different than what it was when he came in. The organization should have been in kind of a transition period, and I think maybe they were a little late to do that. And that's how you get Seth Jones on a really big contract. And then expectations are, hey, we're going to win. If you're a young guy on this team, you got to produce, which maybe not have been, probably wasn't fair for a guy like that.
Totally.
He should have been given the kind of, develop, take your time kind of, because he went straight. I think, he didn't spend a ton of time in the AHL, I don't think. Probably could have used maybe a year more. I don't know. And that's easy for me to say from all the way here in Columbus, but yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting team.
All right, that's going to wrap up our stock market. Let's hit these 3 points of a little bit of news around the league, then we'll get Johnny out of here. Quickly, transaction train station. One big one this week. Vegas signs Braden McNabb to a 3-year deal at $3.65 million. He's 33, been there for a little bit. 2 points in 17 games played, but he is a stay-at-home defenseman, plus 13, playing very well on a very good Vegas team there. Great move. Let's see here. Article out of the Salt Lake Tribune Sports, Salt Lake City. This will make you smile. Archie the Black Labrador is 13 weeks old. He will be with the team for 16 months out of Utah as he trains to become a service animal or an active duty service member or first responder with disabilities. So we'll all be pulling for Archie. Go Utah hockey. Any comments there for the Labrador?
Love that. That's great crossover for us. I take back what I said about Lucas in the AHL. He played a lot for Rockford, so that's on me. I got to do better research.
Okay, great.
Still buying stock in him.
last point of news here. Ryan Reeves officially suspended for 5 games for his hit on Darnell Nurse. I got to
Did
say,
you see it?
I watched the video, and this is well-deserved 5 games. It could have been more. Is 5 games the max?
It feels like it is. If it's not written in the rules, that's usually the number that we always see.
Because this could have been higher, frankly.
Yeah.
It was a vicious hit. It was bad.
I mean, I don't root for stuff like this. I mean, we're always kind of in a balance of like, we like physical hockey. We like seeing guys get after it. This was like jarring to see, like in the year 2024, seeing a play like this.
Yeah.
Is crazy. I think it's a testament to like where the league is. Where like maybe you saw stuff like this 10, 20 years ago. And maybe there was like internal policing, like a guy would drop the gloves and that was kind of the policy. I think that this is a deserved suspension. And that's just where the league is now, where it's like you do this, you're going to leave the ice.
Yeah,
So.
absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more, Grant. You guys ready for the hard hats?
Yeah, absolutely.
Johnny?
Locked in.
It's funny. I saw you on the Google Doc here. I thought you were going to add something to the sponsorship speech. I saw your little ticker.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Leroy, I was just in Worcester. What was that? 2 weeks ago, Grant?
Did you stop?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hadn't seen the new Lowry, shout out College of Worcester, obviously a sponsor as well. And so we did Spoon for lunch, and then we went over to JFB for a beer. And like,
Was this before or after the wedding? Was this
before the wedding? Yeah, day
Okay.
of. You were busy.
Well, Ashley and I stopped there the day before
nice.
the rehearsal dinner. We stopped at Leroy's for lunch.
Oh, that's so I wanted to get over to Leroy's. We had a tight window since it was the day of the wedding. But literally went to JFB without even planning it. Kev Smith and his fiance were already there doing the same thing that we were doing. They
awesome.
just left the new Lowry. They had bought in a sweatshirt. We had bought a sweatshirt. It was like it was just great to be back in Worcester, Ohio. And so, anytime I see Leroy's, I mean, it's just hard not to smile. So
it makes everyone smile. The hard hats of the week are sponsored by Leroy's Bar, located in the heart of Worcester, Ohio. Leroy's establishment has provided cheap pitchers and a safe haven for all of the Fighting Scots of Worcester since 1969. Make your reservations today. Johnny, we added that piece at the end because it's gotten so popular. You got to have reservations. My hard hat of the week is simple. We talked about him at length. I'm going for the entire city of Chicago. It's a fan base that is an original Sixer. They had a lot of success to the mid 2000s, and they're due for success again. They've been through some dark times, been obviously a very loyal fan base, and Connor Bedard's going to turn this thing around eventually. Maybe not this season, but eventually. Stick with them, Chicago fans. You're tough. You can get through this. Grant?
Love that. I'm going with a guy I mentioned earlier in the pod, Blue Jackets forward Matthew Olivier. My dog is losing his mind outside. He must have saw a squirrel. Matthew Olivier got a great goal. Like I said, shifted the game Friday against the Pens. And then on Saturday night, wasn't a lot of highlights for the Jackets, but a real big highlight. Olivier dropped the gloves, which is why he came here. He came here during a time where the talk was the Jackets aren't tough enough. We need some muscle, and he's been the muscle. And he had a really awesome heavyweight fight. Got some good shots in. I would say he probably won the fight. But it was a great clip. Like I said, it's always a balancing act. Part of the game. I think the players. I don't want to get into the fighting debate, but it was awesome to see. And when it's your guy kind of delivering the bruises, it kind of gets a little pep in your step. Like, all right, these guys still got something. All right, they're not going to go down easy, even in a 5-1 defeat. So Matthew Olivier, hard hat of the week.
Nice, Johnny.
I have to say, I would. When you hear the name Matthew Olivier, you wouldn't think that he was born in Biloxi, Mississippi.
That's Biloxi.
You just
Biloxi.
no, and anyway. So my hard hat, I'm going to go with Peter Mrazek. So yeah, it's kind of a little redundant with the Blackhawks, but I for the games that I've been able to watch, especially games last year and going into this year, he's as our goalie, the guy battles and he is constantly under siege. I feel like from just poor defensive play or poor offense, everyone else on the ice is not doing their job, and he has to clean up the mess. And from what I can tell in the local news and media, he never complains. I think he's really just happy to have a spot, but also, really wants to be a part of turning this thing around. And he's just someone that I would love to run into at a local dive bar here in Chicago and buy him a beer, or maybe he can beer. Yeah, so that's my hard hat of the week.
Folks, there you have it. That's going to wrap it up for episode 28. Great rendition of hard hats this week. For all you Chicago fans, stay with it. Stay loyal. You'll get it. It'll turn around. We love you guys. We hope you enjoy a beautiful, safe, healthy holiday season. Enjoy the good times with family and enjoy some good hockey, no matter who you cheer for. Again, reach out. We'd love to have you on here, and we will talk to you next week. We love you.